stay on the line for that.
Okay, no worries. So I'll kick off, and there'll just be a little pause for a second. So then I'll start.
Yep.
Hello and welcome to another TV Central podcast. I'm Aaron Ryan. The ABC has a new drama series called Crownies, making its feature-length debut on Thursday, July the 14th at 8:30 p.m. With a hot young cast including former Home and Away stars Todd Lasance, Indiana Evans and Ella Scott Lynch. This is one I thought would appeal to our TV Central readers. Joining me on the phone is one of the principal cast members, Todd Lasance, who plays a DPP prosecutor, Ben McMahon. Todd, thanks for joining me here at TV Central.
Absolute pleasure. No worries.
Hey, look, first up, well done on the new series. How is it being back in episodic television series again?
Um, it's quite interesting. It's really fast paced. I don't think once you've done a program like Home and Away, I don't think there's anything literally in the planet that's as fast paced as Home and Away is. So it's actually a good preparation for any other television series that you work on. I mean, Cloud Street was a pleasure, given that straight after Home and Away, having shooting up to, I think it's something like 14, 15 minutes a day of actual screen time, whereas Cloud Street we were shooting maybe 2 to 3 minutes a day. So it was a big change, and it was actually a really welcome change, because it changes the whole pace of the work on set and how much time you have for preparation, rehearsals, etc. So the whole dynamic's different. But it's nice to be back there. Crownies isn't actually anywhere near as fast paced as Home and Away, but it's still up there. But I kind of like it. It's a good dynamic having that fast pace there. It teaches you to sort of work quickly and be prepared. So yeah, loving it.
Well, let's get straight into Crownies. Look, I've just finished watching the feature-length debut that starts July the 14th at 8:30 p.m. on ABC One.
Uh-huh.
Look, I find it hard to pinpoint exactly what the series is. Like part drama, which is sometimes quite full on with some of the cases, part comedy, part legal, part relationship based. It's all there. Perhaps you could better describe the series than me.
Yeah, interestingly enough, you've actually pretty much nailed it. We didn't really want to. I mean, you can sort of gather it from the way the story arcs and the characters particularly. There's a lot of development to be had with each character, but they didn't really want to just pinpoint it into one particular genre. They wanted it accessible to a wide range of audiences, from a character perspective, but also from storyline and as the show itself. So you actually nailed it, Aaron. There's a variety of different dynamics to it. You have the comedy aspects, the heavy drama. You've got the relationship side of things. There's sex. There's temptation. There's hard hitting court scenes, and then there's also the personal lives and the emotional pressures of these young solicitors working in a cutthroat sort of environment, because that's what it is really. The DPP is so consuming as a person, emotionally and physically and mentally. For these people involved, it's extremely demanding. When we actually were visited by members of the DPP and got an insight into their workload and the kind of time restraints that they're under, and it's ridiculous. They're having to make life-changing decisions in a matter of a couple of hours, and choices on whether to prosecute people and conditions of whether it be length of sentence, etc., and penalties. So it's my hat off to them, to be honest. I'm glad we're just doing it as make-believe, because I don't know how people cope with the workload that they're given in reality. But I think that also in turn works to make a fully developed show that people will be interested in, because they do have different facets, and each episode sort of focuses on different aspects of their lives and of the legal system. So I think it's varied. It keeps it interesting.
Well, one of those facets that you're talking about, the actual cases. Well, the first feature-length episode deals with a case of two parliamentary cleaners who accused the Attorney General of drugging and raping them, and also there was
Mm,
a heart-wrenching case of a father that allegedly pimped her disabled teenage daughter to a fellow truckie. I mean, I was
mm.
like, oh my goodness, because it with some other scenes that were a bit lighter, it came into some of these. How are they to film, and can we expect more of these sort of controversial cases throughout the series?
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, it probably gets worse
Whoa.
with regards to the cases, and I think the issue is that we needed to do it, for want of a better term, we needed to do it justice with regards to the fact that there is some heinous crimes out there, and I think it's almost making people aware of what people are capable of. There's certain cases that I'm sure they would deal with, but a lot of the cases are sort of loosely based on real life as well. So it's not like they're sitting there, having to make up these scenarios. A lot of them are based on actual events. So for us, it's the weirdest part about it is it's almost like you experience it yourself from a legal perspective, because your character goes through it, from being given the case with regards to, breaking the evidence down and looking at the case files and the notes, etc., and the police evidence and everything, and then we present it to our superiors and our senior counsel, etc., and we have to make a recommendation on whether or not to prosecute and how long we feel,
Mm.
is a justifiable sentence term, etc. So
Yeah.
it's fairly full on. We kind of experience it like like you would on a very base level that a solicitor would. So you get to sort of get really really involved in the cases yourself, and you form an opinion, and you get on side of your character, whether or not you agree with him or not. You have to get on side, and you have to fight for what you believe in as a solicitor at the time. So it's a great dynamic. I find myself discussing the cases with the other actors as well. So it gives us a bit to talk about offset, and also unfortunately makes you realize how terrible some people can be, and what they're capable of doing to other people. It's pretty confronting.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. These full-on cases, though, are juxtaposed with one of your fellow young lawyers, Tatum, considering breaking up with her cocaine-using boyfriend. There are some
Mm.
party scenes, sex on the boss's desk, and some interesting outfits being worn in the first episode in the office. Tell me what it's like filming those scenes in amongst the more heavy legal scenes that I mentioned.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of well, my character goes through, sort of a life-changing situation within the first 3 to 4 episodes. So for him, I had quite a serious journey to go on in a very short period of time. But it's interesting. It's sort of the dynamic of the people is extremely realistic with regards to their experiences and what they go through. And I think because of the high pressures of the job, the partying side of things is reflected through all the characters as well. Letting their hair down, so forth, and then also the relationships within the DPP. And I think, from an audience perspective, everyone wants to see relationships and a bit of flirtation and a little bit of physicality, for example, on the desk, like you mentioned. So it's interesting. It's real life. This is not necessarily what happens in the DPP, but it's what people want to watch and are interested in watching and seeing the relationships between people. That's why we watch television. It's all about escapism and watching people build relationships, watching relationships fall apart. People relate to certain aspects of the storyline. So yeah, it's all about creating interesting television and that escapism where people can pull out of their reality a little bit and watch other people and sort of go on the journey with them. Really, allow them to delve into their own experiences and maybe relate to certain situations that they see on screen. So it's all about creating being true to life, but also creating something interesting and watchable and and I keep using the word dynamic, but that's kind of the essence of it all, creating a nice dynamic that people are interested in watching.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting those the hard scenes and the softer scenes in the show. So definitely worth a watch. We'll come back to Crownies in just a moment, but I just wanted, if I
Hmm.
could talk about you for a moment.
Yeah.
Obviously your main television career started with Home and Away and playing Aidan Jeffries. I was just wondering though, what some people might not know is that you actually initially only appeared in half a dozen episodes in August 2005, and then returned to the later part of 2007, if I'm correct. Tell me about the circumstances around that and the decision to return you to the show.
Yeah, you're actually 100% right. I was only that my initial contract was, I think, 6 weeks. So my first term was like as Aiden. Ironically, I actually auditioned for Jack, the who ended up being played by Paul O'Brien,
Oh yeah.
who was the police officer. So that was my first audition, and then I obviously didn't get that. And then within a couple of months, I had a call to and was asked to play Aiden, just a small guest role. So it was pretty much, well, it was my first gig. It was my first television gig. So as you can imagine, a mix of emotions of completely ecstatic to given an opportunity, but also more nervous than you can possibly imagine. So that was my first official gig, you could say. And then from there, I did just sort of small guest roles on Blue Water High and Blackjack, McLeod's Daughters, and then I did a really blink and you'll miss it role in in a film called Fool's Gold, which had Matthew McConaughey in it. And then from there, I think it was around that period, just after shooting that, that the offer came up. To how it actually officially worked is they asked me to come back as Aiden for another guest role, and during filming that, they approached me and asked if I'd like to continue on with a small gap and come back as sort of a more prominent sort of lead character. So that's pretty much how it unfolded. Really, I was I was really fortunate. I think it's one of those things where if you work hard as a guestie and they see you putting in the effort and your focus, etc., they're more inclined to continue writing stories for you. So I was just fortunate that they saw potential with Aiden, and then I could come back as a more regular gig and really sort of gain a lot of experience through it.
Well, it definitely is an interesting journey. As you said, as we said, you made an appearance in 2005, and were not upgraded to full cast member and appearing in the opening credits until 2008. Then it was
Mm.
2009 when you won the Silver Logie for most popular actor in a television series. Tell me about the Logies and that sort of winning moment.
Yeah, that was surreal, to be honest. That was didn't really feel like that was actually happening to me. The whole what's hard to understand with Home and Away is that you're thrown into this realm, this world of not only fast-paced work and huge workload. Hat off to the guys that that still do it day in day out, because it's extremely demanding and time-consuming and a lot of work required at home if you really want to put the effort in. But you're also thrown into the public eye, on an extreme level. Particularly if your character has a good reception and the audiences are interested in seeing more of him, they sort of project a little bit more as well. So for me, the public eye was a really big shift in my life. And then my first nomination, just to get nominated, I was like, I didn't even know what was going on. You're like, what, I'm nominated? It just doesn't sit in your head. I've never even set foot on a Logies, let alone been now nominated. And then to win, it was just, I mean, I don't remember any part of my speech. Like, I literally don't remember saying anything. I remember hearing my name, and then as soon as my name got called out, it's all blank. I remember walking up the wrong set of stairs, and then I got up there. I don't remember. All I remember is I remember looking down at my hands when I got to the podium, and they were shaking like a leaf, and I remember seeing an elderly person in the audience, and that's pretty much my only memory. Because it was just surreal. I couldn't believe that it actually happened. And I don't know, I've watched the footage back before, and I actually look relatively calm, which is a complete surprise because I came off stage just not knowing what hit me. But you know, it was really humbling. It was a great experience. You know, I felt honoured to sort of be you know, to have that sort of response from the audience, because after all, it is just audience voted, so it's not industry related. So it was just nice to have that recognition from people and that support. So it was a nice sort of start to the career, really.
Yeah, all that time on the home and away, you must have made some good friends. I believe I read that you were flatmates at different times with Mark Furs, Lincoln Lewis. Do you still keep in touch with those guys or any other home and away people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mark Furzy, he's overseas in LA. He's doing the band thing. I mean, he's still interested in acting, but his passion has always been his band. So he's over there giving it a red hot crack. And Lincoln's still working in Australia here as well. I think he's looking at moving overseas at some point. So yeah, I lived with Lincoln for about a year, and then I was with Furzy for about 2 years. And I mean, from the home and away days, extremely close with Jess Tovey, who played Belle. You know, I guess you could pretty much call her my best friend, my best female friend. She's amazing. We got along so well, and interestingly enough, we didn't actually think it was going to work. We both separately went up to the producers when we found out that our storyline was going to link up, and we said to Cameron, who produced the show, we said, yeah, look, we just don't think it's going to work. You know, we both separately went up, unbeknownst to each other, and then ended up being this great dynamic. And from day one on set, we with their storylines, when they finally intertwined, it was fantastic. I just love her to death. I think she's not only brilliant, she's an amazing person, and we get along like a house on fire. So it's been great. She you know, I'd take a bullet for her, and she'd be my closest friend from home and away, I'd imagine. And then also I've got from the female wives, but then I also live with Conrad Colby now, who played Roman.
Oh yeah,
on the show. So he's my flatmate at the moment. So yeah, it's fantastic. You know, it's I think that's the one thing about the industry. You know that everyone who you meet along the way and work on different shows, you both have the exact same interests. So it's easy to spark up some lifelong friendships with these people.
Hey, just a quick word on that. What you referred to as the blink and miss moment in Fool's Gold with Matthew McConaughey
Yeah.
and Kate Hudson. Oh, but just
Yeah.
tell us about that experience. I mean, I know it was a blink and miss moment, but was there a story to tell, or what about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, look, a blink and miss moment on screen, but epic in regards to my own experience. At that point, I'd done a few small guest roles, and then next minute actually, ironically, it was the first day of my shooting on McLeod's Daughters. I was literally on the way to set, like a 6 a.m. start, being picked up on the way out to the countryside, because we sort of stayed in the city and filmed out in the country. And I was driving, and I got a call to say that I got Fool's Gold. So at that point, I think I'd done 3 guest roles max. So for me, it was kind of again another surreal moment where I knew Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson were in it. So it was, and Donald Sutherland as well. It was like, what's going on here? You know, it was mind blowing. And then the actual being part of the actual production itself was a great experience, because I didn't have a lot of on-screen time or a lot in front of the camera, but you're on set a lot of the time still, and you get to, I had a couple of scenes with Matthew, and also obviously you got to meet Kate on set, and we went out, the whole cast would go out for drinks and dinners, etc. So it was amazing, as a young actor coming through and getting to work with these people and experience what a huge set would be like, because we're talking $100 million American feature film, so you can understand how huge that huge scale it was. And we're filming with choppers and $500,000 speedboats and these massive cameras and huge boats out in the ocean. We'd literally get transported by boat onto this massive cruiser just to have lunch, and we'd sit on the decks and eat our lunch, and then jump back on the speedboat and take him back out to the island where we're shooting. And like, it was ludicrous, you know. So from a experience level, it was amazing. We stayed in Port Douglas for 4 weeks of luxury and staying in a resort. It was really just a holiday. So
Nice.
in that perspective, it was fantastic. I didn't, and you know, it was great just to experience what it's like to be on a large set. So yeah, that's certainly what I sort of got out of that experience.
Well, the ladies will know that, you know, Matthew McConaughey is obviously known, well, for lots of things in his movie roles, but his cut body as well. I mean, you had a scene in that movie on the beach where you were both shirtless, and you're sort of giving him a bit of a run for his money. Was that an interesting experience, or is that just another scene, or is it a bit weird or embarrassing, or?
Oh, I think anyone matching up to Matthew McConaughey is going to have a bit of a tough time. So I certainly wasn't going to have a flex off with him. He was pretty ripped at the time, and we were actually talking to him about his training regime, etc. But I mean, I kind of just played, you know, the college jock. With actually a mate of mine was playing my friend on the show too, Jason Dundas. He's a good friend of mine as well. He works on Getaway primarily. So for us, it was just literally an opportunity to be on a speedboat and have fun and race around the ocean. That was honestly what it was like. That we didn't have there was no difficult character breakdown or description that we had to work alongside. It was literally just go out there, appear like you're having the best time of your life, that you know, rich college jocks, and by the way, Matthew McConaughey will be in the boat with you, and you'll be chucking him out into the ocean and throwing him beer, and just make sure you hit this mark and say this line and say it with an American accent. That really, at the end of the day, I can't really talk it up to be this massive, you know, this incredible acting experience, because it was easy, you know. So it was more so just the excitement element of it, and being a part of the production that was the fun part of it all. You know, just being amongst that and being out in the sunshine in Port Douglas.
Well, just I mean, add to that. I mean, you obviously are fit though. So I mean, tell us what kind of routine. I mean, obviously not your whole schedule, but I mean, what do you do to keep healthy and keep up that fitness?
Yeah, you're right. To be honest, workload sort of basically allows absolutely zero set specific regime. Some days you can be doing 14, 15-hour days and getting home at 9 o'clock at night, and you've got lines to learn and dinner to eat at 11 p.m. and you're sitting in front of your scripts, you know, cramming lines so you can go to bed to get up at 5 again. So there's, you know, as far as a regime, I certainly don't have that. I think with regards to physicality, I mean, for something like Rescue, I wanted the physicality to be there because I think it's important to reflect that because of the character and what he represented, and he was a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I needed that presence there on screen physically because, you know, I was working with Les Hill as well, and he's a built guy, and that element of not only presence but what's the word I'm looking for? Feeling like this is my job, you know, that when you look at me as part of the rescue chopper team, that is my job, and I'm good at it. You know, that is what I need to sell before I even open my mouth or move. You know, so physically I sort of worked pretty hard for that. Was training sort of 3 to 4 days a week, and then now I find it's a lot of psychology too. If I'm training and I feel fit and I'm working out when I do get time, it helps me psychologically, you know.
Yeah.
It changes your posture, changes your mentality, releases endorphins into your system. So it has more ways than just looking good. For example, the physicality for Crown is there's not a huge need for him to be, you know, muscly or ripped or anything. That's not a character requirement. But you know, Ben, my character is vain to a degree, and is all about perception and looking good, and particularly for the ladies. So he it kind of works in line with that as well. So I just kind of do it when I can. I'm not obsessed with it. I try to eat really well, but I noticed that that I definitely slipped a little bit since rescue, but that's just because of the workload. So I go through different periods. Once I've had a bit of a break, I get back into it, but it's usually just mainly weights. I don't really do any cardio because I play sort of a bit of touch footy, and I'm fairly fit in that regard anyway. So
Yeah.
it's mainly just for building muscle, etc.
Look, we couldn't do an interview without you with at least one question about Underbelly. I mean, that must have been a good role to sink your teeth into after all the drama and beach scenes of Home and Away, I'd imagine.
Yeah, yeah. Underbelly was fantastic. I got to play a detective, which is kind of a mini fantasy in my own life. Anyway, I think if I wasn't doing acting, I'd like to be involved in the police or law enforcement to some degree. So to be honest, that was a bit of a buzz, you know, getting that opportunity. I know Underbelly had a great reputation as well in the industry and with the public as well for creating good drama. So I jumped at that chance. It came at a perfect time as well. I was just finishing up on Cloud Street and actually was on a holiday. I just went to New Zealand to go snowboarding and got a call whilst I was over there. So it was oh sorry, no, that was beforehand. Sorry, I totally mixed it up. That was Rescue. Sorry, that sounded bad. Underbelly came just after Cloud Street, so everything sort of blurs together. So yeah, it came at a perfect time after finishing Cloud Street, and another way to sort of branch away from Home and Away as well. I mean, I loved that opportunity doing Home and Away, but after 2.5 years, my fear of being typecast was high, and I wanted to keep recreating myself as an actor and making new choices. So yeah, it was perfect timing. It was a great experience.
And what else is coming up for you? I mean, are you still filming Crownies, or what's beyond that at the moment?
That's, to be honest, Aaron, that's pretty much my main focus at the moment. I don't, as I said, we don't have any time anyway to be able to look at any other projects, but we get about 3 months off at the end of this year before Touchwood season 2 starts. If obviously if all goes well and it goes ahead, season 2 will start early 2012. So that is meant to be the holiday period of 3 months, but I'd love to work in that time as well. I'm a bit of a workaholic with this stuff, and I'd love to make a whole new choice, make a whole new bold character choice, and go with a totally different project and something that's interesting and that I keep gaining experience with. Really, that's at the end of the day what I want to do. I sort of want to have a good repertoire and be prepared psychologically and physically and ability-wise as much as I possibly can, so that I'm known for my work, as opposed to just the celebrity side of things, which doesn't interest me at all. So it's about continuing to build that CV, etc., and my experience. So if a job does come up, then I'll definitely look at it. There's a couple of things floating around that I have been looking at, but again, it's a short gap, so it'll just depend on time restraints, etc. But if something comes up, then I'll definitely jump at it. But other than that, I might just sort of use that time as downtime, have a bit of a holiday, and prep for 2012.
Yeah. Well, I want to finish this podcast by just talking about Crownies, the last couple of questions.
Yeah.
Look, just a slightly curly one. As I said, I just did watch the first double episode today. Now, there was a reference in the series that your character was lucky to escape a drug charge a year earlier. Is that supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek reference to a real-life incident, or is that just a total coincidence?
No, absolutely 100% coincidence, funnily enough. Yeah, no reference at all. That was the character breakdown when I first read the actual character back in sort of September, October of 2010. So yeah, no relevance at all.
I just thought I'd ask the question. I was just watching it. Um, look, you were talking about your character on a sort of going through a life-changing part of his life in the first few episodes.
Hmm.
What sort of journey is your character going to be going through, or is it you can't really speak too much because it'll let too much out of the bag?
Yeah, it's really difficult because again, it's hard to give specifics and without giving too much away. The great thing that I've loved about Ben's story arc is that he's all about facade. You know, what he projects is most certainly not what's going on in internally, which makes him really interesting and makes his choices really interesting and his journey interesting because he's very quick to judge and definitely judges things by the cover, and that actually gets him in trouble a lot of the time. But it also opens up great opportunities for him to learn and develop as a person too. So there's particularly cases. There's some serious relationship things that go on as well. There's a really close family member incident that basically shifts his whole perspective as well. But the cases as well, the day-to-day work that he deals with, and finding that fine line between being emotionally invested in the case or just looking at it from a professional perspective, because that's what you need to do. You need to differentiate that difference of taking the work on personally and you know, almost making a decision to take sides to a degree. There's one case in particular where there's the victim that I'm dealing with is he accidentally kills his own son. So without giving too much away there as well, you've got a lot of moral issues that are raised there with regards to, you know, he's already given himself a life sentence by killing his own son. So my opinion was that, you know, prosecuting doesn't change anything because it's not like it was accidental anyway. So there was no intention to harm. So what is the point of prosecuting? But then there's also, on the other hand, the idea of what's called general deterrence. So if we make the public aware and that there is a prosecution and he is punished, it'll deter other people from making the same mistake. You know, people leave kids in the car all the time. You know, they might run in to get a coffee or, you know, or run into their friend's house and get distracted and on a hot day, you know, that sort of scenario. So it's there's a lot of scope for him to grow as a person and to understand what it is and dealing with constantly that fine line, as I mentioned before, between becoming emotionally invested in the case and he's got an extremely strong opinion as well. He's very opinionated with all the cases he gets given. So it's interesting to see how he deals with those situations, you know, and how they therefore play out.
Yeah. Well, I guess finally for television viewers that have perhaps seen some of the shorts of the series or are listening to this podcast, tell us sort of in a nutshell why this show is worth checking out and what they can expect from the series.
Yeah, I'd like to think it's really worth checking out in the sense that it has something to offer for a range of different audiences. You know, we cater for the younger sort of generation right up to, you know, I'd like to call them veterans of life. Different age brackets, and you know, there's sex, there's temptation, there's gripping storylines, there's comedy, there's light moments, there's dark moments, there's beautiful moments. So I think it sort of caters for everyone's needs. If there's any, you know, apprehension with people who, for example, might not be interested in a legal show, it's not so solidly based that it just becomes all courtroom. You know, I think I've spent about 15% of my time in the courtroom. So they're beautiful emotional journeys with really diverse characters, and I think it's going to be one of those shows where people will latch onto a particular character, relate to that person, and then drive the storyline with them. So I think there's, you know, something for everyone in there.
Absolutely, it's very very hard to pigeonhole, and maybe that's a good thing. It's
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know, cross between Winners and Losers, Offspring, Boston Legal, Law and Order. It's cross between, I think, a little bit of everything, which is great. So look, Todd, thanks so much for joining me here at the TV Central podcast, and good luck with the debut on July 14th.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Aaron. Cheers.
Todd Lasance, principal cast member of the new series Crownies, which begins with a feature-length episode at 8:30 p.m. Thursday, July 14th on ABC One. Well worth a look. Well, that's it for another TV Central podcast. Please join me for a new one coming up soon. Until then, I'm Aaron Ryan for TV Central. See you then.